Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now we were saying we wash the body and we prepare it with white cotton, and we clothe our dead, and we're reading for the janazah prayers. Now the janazah prayers we're also going to be covering in detail when we cover washing of the body. So this will be another videos we will do afterwards. We're just trying to give you the general idea of death and the sequence of what happens. Now, we've done that. We washed the body, and we finished performing the janazah prayers. So everybody's going to take the dead, their beloved, this family, to the ground to be put into the soil to be buried. Now, if it's a believer, they're, again, as I said, they want to be put in the ground as fast as possible. And if they're not, they don't want to be put in as fast as possible. So let's go now. We're already reached to the ground and are ready to it. Now the earth is alive. You cannot hear it. We are not tuned at this frequency to understand the calls of the earth. The earth cries out. The earth talks. And the earth talks to the disbeliever and states, I can't wait to come. When you come in the ground, I will crush your bones. And for the believer, the earth will say, I will welcome you with open arms. This is what the earth was saying. And there's furthermore, now that's why some people who are disbelievers don't want to be buried. They want to stay as far out of the soil as possible. And what was interesting, when you actually lift the coffin of this people, some people may not be fat, they may be skinny, but they weigh so heavy. They feel so heavy when you're lifting the coffin. And if some people may be skinny, maybe medium, and maybe heavy, like size-wise, but when you lift the coffin, it's so light. You notice that when you're lifting it from a believer to a non-believer. So this is things which are interesting to note. So we put the coffin into the ground, we lower it, and when we lower it, we say, from earth we come. So we're lowering the body is going down in the coffin. And see, to talk about the coffin, when we cover about the funeral washing and things and the janazas, we'll talk a little bit more, but the law of Canada and North America, we have to legally abide the laws of this land. States we have to be buried in a coffin. But back in Guyana, in Saudi Arabia, in Africa, in India, China, they just bury directly in the soil. But in our case here, well, we're in a coffin. So they lower the coffin into the ground. We say, from earth we come. We came, Allah created us from Prophet Adam. What we did, go back to the Prophet Adam videos, we were created from oil, and to earth we go. We came from oil, we'll go back to the earth, and from earth we shall rise again. This is where we come back out again. And this is confirmed in Surah Yasin of the Holy Quran. It says, when the second trumpet is blown, by Angel Israfil. Angel Israfil will blow the second trumpet, and then all the bodies will be raised. The earth, as Quran says another part, the earth will give up its burdens. The burdens is us. Allah will reconstruct. When your body gets decomposed, the only thing remain is your tailbone. And Allah says, and from the tailbone, He will reconstruct the whole entire body that you look at right now. All yourself will be reconstructed back. But we'll talk about that a little on another subject more on the Day of Judgment, what happens. But that's just to give you another idea what happens. So when the body is going, so we tell, from earth we come, to earth we shall return, and from earth we shall rise again. And then people throw the soil in. See, what is interesting, we talked about the earth crushing. Now, if you ever watch Discovery channels or educational channels and they found these people, archaeologists that found bodies, you ever notice the head is one place, the foot is another place, the leg is one place, the arm is another? It's never intact. Why isn't it intact? If you bury the body, the flesh starts to eat out first, and the skeleton remains for a longer time frame. But why isn't it intact? Because the hadith is correct. The hadith states the earth will crush the people's bones. And it's interesting, I was going from Ottawa to Toronto with a brother Yusuf, a Somalian brother, that we discussed as well as we're traveling, and he said, you're right. In Somalia, they had to dig up the graveyard and reallocate it. And in the whole graveyard, there was one, when they dug up one man, his skeleton structure was completely intact. And they tried to find out who it was, and they said this was a very pious, a very religious, a very pious, humble servant of Allah. His bones were completely intact. So this shows you of the piety of people and the earth working on their bones. Now, what can we actually do to protect us against being crushed? There's four things. We have four sides. We have a top, the head, we've got the foot, the bottom, we've got the right side and left side from being crushed by the earth. These are very interesting things to find out what protects you. What protects you is four things. One is reading the Quran. Protects one side of you. Two is your prayers. Your prayers, the 5 times a day, protects you. The Quran protects from your head being crushed. The right hand is from the prayers. You see, for the prayers that you do. And then your deeds are at the bottom, your feet. And your left side is your fasting in Ramadan. So the Quran, the Salat, Namaz, 5 times prayers, your deeds at the bottom from the earth crushing the foot, and from your left is fasting the month that protects your body from being crushed in there. Well, you know it's a fact, you get crushed. You don't have to believe me, the archaeology discovered things, and you go check, you'll see yourself. It's a fact. You want to protect, those are the 4 things you have to do to protect your body. Now, we jumped ahead of our game, but we just want to show you some sequence of what happens with the body inside the ground. Now, the crushing of the body, we don't know the time frame, how long it takes. It was 100 years, 1,000 years, 50 years, 5 years, 2 years, 3 years before this happens. As the body destroys and disintegrates, and then, see, it happens faster in those other countries because you're buried in the soil. Now we've got to wait for the board that's around you to just get destroyed before, so that could take hundreds, or maybe 20, 30, 50 years, I don't know how long. It could take 100 years for the wood the ants and the termites to eat it up before the soil damages you up. So that's a different scenario, depends on the time frame of variant, depends on how and where you're buried. Now, when we go back, we were saying we put the body in, we cover, everybody throws some soil, there's lots of bark and putting soils in the ground, and then they use a bulldozer, and then they covered, or the old countries, everybody use a shovel and they fill in the grave. When the grave is completely filled, then the IMAM reads a talqim explaining about the questions, which we're going to cover in a section of the grave. So they will explain about the questions and remind the people there also, one day we will all have to go to the belly of the earth. When we see that dead being lowered in the ground, everyone, be it king, be it pauper, be it not educated, being poor, being rich, doesn't matter who you are, and you came in this world with nothing except for your body, with no clothes, and you go back to the ground with nothing except for your deeds. And this is very important when we cover the next section on deeds. So you see, this is what happens when they put into the ground. So in this series and continue to the next one. We're going to end this one and continue.